Why is that all crooked? I can't stand that. Okay. Hello, welcome you guys. Happy electricity back on at my house in Houston. I don't know if that's actually a thing, but I just made it a thing. Come on in, come on in. Remember that? Like when people first started doing lives, they would be like, we're gonna wait till some more people join us, but we're not like that. We're ready to put your questions in the comments and we will get to answering them.
All right, you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Can a district change your child's ERMS provider in the IEP without consent?
So I'm not sure what the ERMS provider is. As it relates to, you know, if Cindy was your special ed teacher and Alicia was your speech pathologist and, you know, Bob was the adaptive physical education instructor, they don't have any obligation to tell you if that person changed, but they certainly have to, their obligation is to deliver, you know, the product, but they could change the person that delivers that.
Okay. What can a parent do when new supports were implemented but behaviors only got worse?
So we got to make adjustments to the supports, right? We have to do another FBA. We have to figure out, you know, any part of the IEP document is our best guess, right? Based on current levels. Now, the behavior could have gotten worse because you implemented the BIP. There certainly is some time to, you know, make those adjustments. But if it's outside of like 9 weeks or a grading period, then I would come back to the table and do a new behavior intervention plan for sure.
Okay, my child's school suggested an out-of-placement school that is an hour away. However, they said transportation would be provided, but their son often has trouble and behavioral issues with transportation. What will your thoughts be on this since the school is so far away?
So, I mean, I have a lot of kids that are at out-of-district placement because of behavioral needs. As long as there's a driver for the vehicle and a second person, that should be adequate to support him while he's being transported. Thank you, James. I think you're awesome too.
My child's school suggested, we just did that one. When a child is sent to another district for a regional programming, is he still able to do sports and other activities in his local school district, or is he now only a student of the regional program?
So I wouldn't imagine that he would be able to participate in sports at his home campus if he wasn't able to be educated at his home campus. But those are, that's a discussion you would have with the principal. I've never seen it.
Okay, why is there such a push for all RSP and SPED students to be pushed out to general ed all day?
Because we are running low on spending our school district money on quality special ed teachers, on quality teachers, and quality paraprofessionals. That's why.
What can parents do when they don't think kids are getting the appropriate support?
So, I mean, you certainly go to your campus and say, I'm concerned that this support is not providing him a free, appropriate public education, enabling him to make progress in light of his circumstances. And sometimes you need support. You need an advocate. And so we have a team of advocates beside myself, and we do everything from a records review where we would review your documents. We would call you, do a Zoom and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, here's what we saw. Here's what we would request. We would make this adjustment in the present levels, different IEP goals, and ask for this. And sometimes that's adequate and you can go in and then support your child. And then sometimes you need somebody to go in there and support you in the meetings. You are in a legal setting and you're outnumbered, right? It's you against, and I hate to say but it's you with your purview of your child, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people from the district. And so even if you're fully prepared, it's overwhelming.
Can you explain the difference between developmental delay and an autism services at school?
Well, so a developmental delay is a category. Autism services are something totally different. So let's talk about a developmental delay. So a developmental delay is an eligibility allowed per state's choice under IDEA from the ages of 3 to 9. I think there's only 6 states that still have that. But a child is not developing the rate and cadence and prosody that we would expect them to. Autism services are for addressing the needs, the behaviors or characteristics of autism that impedes that child's learning or the learning of others.
Okay. I was told by the school district that they didn't want to evaluate a child because they had already met their child fine limit for the year, so they couldn't take on any more evals or sped kids. Is that possible and legal?
All things are possible. We've learned all sorts of people do all sorts of things. It's certainly not legal. There's no child fine limit. That's like saying, y'all stop having children. Like, what are you talking about? Children have disabilities.
Perfect. Can a high school not have a special education teacher physically at the school and only use paras?
No, that's illegal. You have to have a special educator with the students with disabilities.
How do we request paperwork for our child's manila folder?
Yeah, so I mean, I hope that there's some sort of, monitoring process that's going on. Schools are required to provide you IEP progress reports commensurate with the same time that we provide grades. But you can certainly ask for data in between if you're wanting to get their records, their open records. If you want to do a FOIA request, the Freedom of Information Act, or a FERPA request, then you have a document. And we have that in the Academy. We would love for you guys to join us. We can provide that to you, all members of the Academy. It's very detailed. You would complete it, take it to whoever does legal at your district, county, or city, and then submit that to them. They have 45 calendar days to provide you those requested documents.
Perfect. Can an Ed Tech 3 deliver and work in an IEP and resource room under the instruction of an off-site SPED teacher, or does the SPED teacher have to be physically in the room?
That's sort of like saying if a doctor is at another hospital, does he get credit for delivering your baby? Say it with me. No. So the word supervise means that you're super and you're vising and you're there. So the language, which is in case law or statute, is that under the watchful eye and close supervision. I'm really good, but I cannot supervise my grandchild 500 miles from here. So, and children's needs are always changing. And so that is ridiculous, but we hear that all the time.
Can a county require residential education if no private day schools are available?
So they're required to have a continuum of services that addresses a child's needs when it's higher than can be done solely in the educational setting. There are kids that need counseling by counselors daily. There are kids that need intensive behavior programming. There are kids that need to have access to physicians so that they can change their medications. And so whether it's a day placement, out of district placement, day school, residential treatment, you have to offer something that cannot solely be provided at the school district.
Okay. Is it legal for a paraprofessional to provide Tier 2 RTI interventions versus a certified educator, particularly if the RTI is to be documented for future eligibility?
So RTI, that's a really good question. The RTI is delivered by a general educator, so they're delivered by a general educator. Paraprofessionals are there to help special education students.
Okay. Have you ever heard of a school denying an outside provider or RBTs on campus for the first 10 days of school?
They can deny it for the first 10 minutes. If you're not an employee of the district, nor part of a contract for a vendor, so let's say that you've hired Danette, she is going to be doing the IEE for psychological, then you'd have to give her access for a few observations. But there's no obligation from a public school district to let non-employees spend hours or days with the student inside of their campuses.
Okay, this one is a little tricky.
Okay.
It's a lot of numbers in this one.
Uh-oh.
Is it legal to send one teaching assistant to specials, whether it be art, music, or PE, but they have 7 students that may be split up between those 3 classes? So she may have 1 in art, 3 in PE, and 2 in music, and the TA has to run back and forth between all the classes to help those 7 students. Is it acceptable to read that the said students will only have limited TA assistance in specials?
No. Limited is not even a thing. What does that mean? The word, I don't know anything about limited. So, I mean, what limited to me would be somebody that's up for, interpretation. We never write anything in a document that's up for somebody's interpretation or their opinion, right? So if you said to me, reduce homework, I might say, well, you don't have homework 1 day instead of 5 days. Somebody else might go, oh, you don't have to have homework at all. So the special ed minutes were written into those IEPs because those students needed that support to be successful in general ed. So unless she's cloning herself, she would need to be with the students during those instructional minutes.
Oh, bad for that TA.
Yeah.
Are there laws about who can give medications? I'm in Arizona and my school wants myself, the sped teacher, or my paras to be in charge of students with meds, but they have no real tracking and administrating policies.
Yeah, I've never heard of anybody that's not in the medical field being able to dispense medicine to individuals at schools. So that would make me very concerned if I was a parent.
Right. How can a high school say that they only provide inclusion services in state-tested classrooms?
I don't know. I can guess what state that is. One of 10 states I'm thinking of.
What is the purpose of requesting school records?
So that you can know your child's progress based upon foundation of what the school is seeing all the time. You never see what the school is seeing, right? So where are the IEP progress reports? Where are the raw data collection sheets? Where is the full testing? Where is their work? And so the school has a responsibility to load student documents up into the cloud or wherever they have the district. Their requirement under state requirements as well.
At what point do we seek legal action for the school not providing services or accommodations?
I mean, that's really up to you when you seek that. I certainly, as an advocate or as a parent, would have given the school an opportunity once they had knowledge of it from me, that this wasn't going on. It was denying my child of faith. What would the school like to do to rectify that? And then based on their answer, I might file, I might get an advocate, I might get an advocate to file for me, but, we give them a chance to fix it. I'm all about fixing things. If they don't fix it, then they're not going to call you back when they're 25 and go, just kidding, sorry that you missed 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So often the only time to get a school's attention is a really good filing.
All right, at what age can I ask about school counseling?
5. Kindergartners have school. There's some kindergartners based on their disability that have counseling as a related service.
Okay. Is a town recreation summer program required to provide a 504 program?
So a 504 program. So 504 is the 1973 Rehabilitation Act. And so it's applicable for children in public schools. It's applicable for adults in employment. And so the act simply says that you can't be discriminated against based on your disability for those entities that are bound by them. So employers, public schools, those sorts of things. So I'm not really sure what a summer program is, but I'm gonna err on the side of no.
Okay, so these two questions are right back to back, so I'm just going to combine them. Part A, can teacher aides provide general education? Part B, can paraeducators run a self-contained classroom without any education?
So B would be, no. But we have cases opened up all the time where I have a OCR case that was just opened out of the Atlanta office, self-contained life skills class. There hasn't been a teacher in there for 6 months. So that's a problem. So what was the first part of the question, Alicia?
Can the teacher assistants provide general education in a general education classroom?
I mean, I don't know if a teacher assistant could also be a general ed teacher. So, I mean, I guess if you're a general ed teacher, yes. But if you're not a general ed teacher, then you're not a general ed teacher.
Okay, they're moving from California to Montana. Does the IEP accommodations follow the child during the 1st grade?
Yeah, whenever you move, whether it's from city to city, district to district, state to state, that IEP is received by the incoming district, the incoming campus. They have to honor that as close as they can by matching services and supports. Then they have 30 school days if they need to do new testing, make adjustments, and then at the end of the 30 school days, you'll have what's called a permanent IEP meeting.
I can see Danette, she's trying to
I know she's just typing away. I think she's ordering us a Frosty and like
There
a,
she goes.
a Baconator.
No, pizza. Okay, my ASD daughter vocally stems. She's in first grade, and they shush her and move her from class. Should they be doing that?
So, should they be doing that? You know, I think a lot of people do stuff based upon the training they have, the knowledge they have, the understanding they have. I mean, we have teachers that are wanting to stop ASD students from stimming, stop kids with Tourette's from ticking. So, you know, our job is to make sure that we educate students to the maximum extent possible with their non-disabled peers. And I don't know the acuity of your child's disability. Sometimes it's not successful in a general ed setting. But we certainly want to do all that we can to see if that's a possibility.
I was denied staffing for a fifth grade student with a kindergarten reading level. Wouldn't he qualify?
So he probably shouldn't be in general ed fifth grade if he reads at a kindergarten level. So I wouldn't imagine that you can modify his work down 5 school years as a fifth grade teacher. So I would reach out to the principal and say, I believe that this violates the certification of my general ed certification or special ed certification. And I don't believe I can properly and successfully and ethically serve this student with the format that we have now.
How do I know which is better for a 504 plan or an IEP?
So it's not which is better, it's which is more appropriate. Does your child need instruction in any area of his education above what the general education teacher could do? So a 504 is going to give you accommodations, right? But an IEP is an individualized education program that provides you services and supports and goals and modifications and accommodations and supplementary aids and services. And we're measuring stuff and we're mitigating the acuity of your disability. So for me, in 28 million years that I've been doing this, I've never had a child that I wouldn't test for special ed. If for some reason the testing came back and he solely needed a 504, then I would certainly implement that. But I can count on, I think I might have one child right now that I serve that has a 504 that I still think it was a mistake.
Can I request for my child to be evaluated before the school year starts?
So you can request it. Those requests are only legally received during school days. So, and those school days start, I think most of my partners were already booked August 5th. But then you have to wait for the school staff to come on contract. Testing at the beginning of the year for me is a little bit tricky. I don't want a child tested right at the beginning of the year. I think they might be really crushing it because we're mostly doing review, right? Or they might be not crushing it because it's a new setting. And then once they get in there and get acclimated, they'll have less need. So if I was going to have a new child, a child tested for at the beginning of the year, I would wait 4 weeks first.
Does a teacher have the right to tell a student they must earn their flexible seating accommodation?
You don't have to earn accommodations. It's a benefit of being an American with a disability.
How long do they have to reevaluate once I have requested it?
So they have to respond to your request within 15 days. And then they have to, let's say that they grant it, then they will provide you notice and consent. Once you've signed the notice and consent, then that starts a timeline of either 60 school days, 45 school days, or 30 school days, depending where you live in these great United States.
I'm an aide, and my teacher for ESY hasn't even looked at any students' IEPs, and we're in week 3. Who should I contact?
I don't know that I'd contact anybody if I wanted to keep my job. That's not unusual, but we would never tell people to, put their job in jeopardy. I certainly, if you had somebody that you trusted that was in leadership at your campus, share that you're concerned that that puts your teaching certificate at risk.
Can I ask to modify how my son turns in his homework if he's struggling with homework?
You can certainly talk about when you're in the IEP meeting or the 504 meeting, when you look at the accommodations, that we can look at a reduction of homework. That's very doable.
I was told a TSS will be my child's special ed teacher, but, quote unquote, will be going back to school. Is this legal?
I mean, I don't know if a TSS is a special educator, but certainly they just have to provide the shadow, the para, the one-on-one. They don't have to run their credentials by you as long as, or how long we have them, as long as they implement the 504 or the IEP.
My daughter is OHI for ADHD. Is it legal for her teachers to ask her if she's had her medication?
It's just bad manners. I think I would probably teach my daughter to say, have you had your medication? I'm just kidding. No, we don't ask children if they've had their medication unless you're their physician, their nurse, that you would have a legal right to. And all it does is it puts down the child. It's terrible.
Can I be forced to close my daughter's IEP if I disagree with the school?
No, I mean, you're not forced to do anything. All decisions are group decisions. And so when you disagree with the school about placement and whether they're wanting to remove her IEP and go to a 504, you have 5 business days where you could file a due process request in your state. And that implements a thing called pendency or stay put. And that means that the last agreed upon IEP stays put until the two parties can work out their differences through dispute resolution, mediation, an actual due process hearing, and a decision by a hearing officer.
Can the school refuse one-on-one for my nonverbal child that is an elopement risk daily?
So, the school is required to implement the IEP with fidelity based upon the conformity of it. So if it's in the IEP, they can't refuse it, but you've got to get it in the IEP. I think for a child that elopes, the first thing that you want to have, whether you had a one-on-one or not, is a really good behavior intervention plan.
Okay. If an IEP isn't signed by parents for multiple years, does it?
Yeah, so whether or not that go, don't sign the document. I'm going to sign either way and say my position. The LEA, the local education agency, is responsible for crafting an IEP. Certainly we want the input from parents. In my opinion, and it's just mine, when you don't sign the IEP, when somebody else looks at it, a fact finder, a mediation officer, a state complaint, an investigator, a due process hearing officer, an attorney with the Office of Civil Rights, it looks like you didn't participate. So I'm going to always participate, and I'll put down every single thing that I disagreed with it, but I'm not going to not sign it. But if a parent hasn't signed the IEP, but they've been given their procedural and substantive rights to participate, then whatever is in that document or whatever is paused by that document because of legal proceedings is still in place.
We have a behavioral intervention plan, and they still won't do one-on-one. What do I do?
Well, a behavior intervention plan wouldn't dictate a one-on-one unless the one-on-one would be in your schedule of services. So if your schedule of services, determination of services says that you receive a one-on-one, then they have to implement that.
Okay, so what's the best way to get a one-on-one? The school says she needs it, but the special ed director said it's not in the budget.
Oh, well, that would be a state complaint. There's no such thing as a budget in special education. So, I mean, if she needed a wheelchair ramp, would we have to see if that's in the budget? Would we have to do a cakewalk, a fundraiser? So if the child needs it to access the general ed curriculum, then we provide it, period. I mean, that would be an OCR complaint, a state complaint all day long.
How many students should be in a small group for small group instruction?
A small group. So a small group is, it depends. If I have 15 kids that have reading disabilities, that might be a small group that I could manage. If I have 2 kids that have very profound behavior needs and are self-injurious, that may not be a small enough of a group. So very few states have actual statutes around that. That I would reach out to your DOE, your Department of Education, and say what determines what are the parameters for a small group in Florida, and they should have some sort of answer wherever you are.
What can I do if the special ed director shared my daughter's IEP information?
Well, she's allowed to share your daughter's IEP information with any school employee. Did she share it like on YouTube? Did she post it somewhere and like leave copies of it for people to pick up? She is allowed to share her IEP, your child's IEP, with other school-based members though.
She said she shared it with other district employees that had nothing to do with her daughter.
Right. And so, I mean, you would have to prove that that happened. I don't know what would happen in that case. That certainly violates FERPA. When we start an IEP meeting, the first thing that we say is that this is a confidential meeting and we are here and it only are going to focus on this child, and what happens here stays here. So that would be horrible. But, certainly if you believe that your child has been discriminated against or you've been retaliated against, and you believe that was a method of retaliation, you could file with Office of Civil Rights, U.S. Department of Education.
All right, Karen, what happens at 8 o'clock on Tuesday nights?
I was like, I don't know what happens today. And I was like, I don't know, is that one of the questions? So we have a Special Education Academy every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, where we train on federal law, state law, the implementation of the law, the spirit of the law. Tonight we're starting a new series, this is the elusive prior written notice. Something you're supposed to have and most of us have never seen. And if you'd like to join us in the academy, you can simply go to specialeducationacademy.com and you can join for 15 days for free. You put in your information for payment and there'll be a coupon code. You put in TikTok Live in all caps. And then at the end of 15 days, if you want to continue in the academy, we'd love to have you. You'll be charged $47. If you want to cancel, you can go in and do that at any time. There's also over 300 hours of archived trainings that you have available on your dashboard that you could binge watch Special Education Boss instead of Netflix.
Okay, this is from an elementary special education teacher. She wants to know how to best allow her upper elementary students to choose to stay in the gen ed setting for instruction when they understand the topic and don't need the extra support.
Whoa.
Can that be addressed in the plan?
What are you talking about? So a child, like, today is a good day for me. I feel like gen ed. That's like, why don't we let them choose whether or not they make their bed, brush their teeth, or take out the trash? What the? Y'all are making this up, aren't you? We're trying to get some sort of like HBO film out. What? We can't even get adults to choose. Yeah, today I feel like general ed instruction. What about you? Yeah. That's so ridiculous.
This one says, I have a question. Why did the law change for California on handicapped placards? I have 3 kids with disabilities. That's as far as the question went.
Yeah, so I would reach out to ADA on that, and they would have information on that.
Okay, is it $47 a month or for the year?
It's $47 a minute. No,
Minute, dang.
it's really good though. It's $47 a month.
All right. What can we do to protect our kids from restraints and seclusion?
That's a tough one. I've represented many children that were unfortunately traumatized and harmed by such behavior. You have to be willing to step up. You have to be willing to go to the school board. You have to be willing to go to the press. You have to be willing to do a press conference. You just cannot permit that.
Okay, so what do you do? This one might make us all upset. So let's everybody take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you do if the principal of the school makes an announcement and says, hey, everybody, I know this student with 23 chromosomes is acting up in the hallway. Just ignore them and go about your day.
I would ignore him and help him go about his day at another location of employment. Ooh. Mm-mm. That wouldn't be appropriate for any child. That's so gross.
Yeah, I told you it was going to make us all upset.
Mm-mm.
Apparently, the school is so close that people around the school that live near the school, because they did it over the loud system, heard the principal say it too. So, like, the community's upset about it too.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. If the last signed goal was for playground skills, and the student is now in 8th grade with no playgrounds, what do we do with that goal?
Well, we shouldn't have. I mean, the goal was only. I mean, you don't have a biology goal if they don't take biology. So, anytime you receive an IEP document and any part of it's not appropriate, then you convene an IEP meeting and make adjustments. You add to it, you take away. But ain't got no 8th grade playgrounds.
Correct. What is the best way to implement a sensory room?
I don't know. That's a really good question. So, a sensory room is a support. Not all campuses have it for kiddos that have usually OT services, sensory needs, behavioral needs. They need to get their wiggles, their whatever out. But those are set up usually in tandem with the special educator and the occupational therapist.
There are multiple trainings on your website. Which one is it? So when you go to the training tab, it's going to be like a gray, white, and blue button that says the Academy. And you'll click on that one. That's how you get to the Academy for tonight. Also, if you go back to her page, just Special Education Boss's TikTok, and you click the link tree link, it's right at the top. So you can click that too. What's the recourse when a teacher used restraint when she was mad but said it was a hug and they have video evidence?
Oh, don't hug my kid. I don't. It's just a big mountain to move. I mean, restraint with a child, whether they have a disability or not, there's just great liberty across all states and all courts. I would do everything that I could as loudly as I could to make sure that never happened again.
Sad 1233210 wanted you to know that they followed you just now on YouTube and Instagram.
Thank you.
Can we put in the IEP if the child can't be controlled/calmed for X minutes, then call the parent?
So, calling the parent is not part of an IEP. The school has an obligation to educate them. If they cannot provide a remedy for the acuity of the child's behavior, then we need to sit down at the table and talk about out-of-district placement at the expense of the district. But calling the parent is not part of an individualized education program.
I really want to know the rest of your question, Annalise. It says, that's probably not even how you say her name, so I apologize. I probably said that wrong. Anyways, it says, this upcoming school year, I will be a new preschool SPED teacher. Trainings for brand new SPED teachers probably aren't adequate, but I don't know the rest of the question.
Well, come join us in the academy. It's the best training. It will serve you well.
Can an MDR be done without a parent present? They were notified in advance, but no called, no showed.
Absolutely. Any IEP meeting, we have a substantive and procedural obligation to reach out legally that we can track a way that we would notify the parents. If they no-show or don't attend, then you've got to proceed with the meeting.
You're smarter than me, so you might know what this means, but I don't, so I'm confused. I have one question. I did my interview for school EA, but I just my study, so I don't have a reference. What can I do for a reference?
If that's part of getting your educational assistant, then you'll need a reference. I don't know if they're looking for somebody that was one of your professors, somebody that you shadowed in a class. I would go back to the person that's asking for that and ask for more specificity.
Perfect. Parent won't agree to a new goal and wants to continue the playground skills and wants a structure installed.
Yeah, I want small hips, but that's not going to happen. So we don't have playgrounds at 8th grade. I understand that, and I think that there's lots of kiddos that would have benefited from a playground till they were 22, but it doesn't happen. There's no onus, duty, or obligation for the school to do that.
All right, my daughter outscored her ELA by 2 points, so the school took away all of her writing accommodations. What can I do?
Well, I would go to,
including her teacher notes. The school was refusing to retest her. Can I get her tested elsewhere? Sorry, 2-part.
yeah, well, we don't take away part of her IEP because she had a good test day. So if getting rid of an IEP is contingent on you making progress, nobody would have an IEP. So you have to quantify why those things that you're taking away are no longer needed in 180 days in an instructional year. So who cares about a test? Correct.
I filed a state complaint in Hawaii, then moved to Virginia.
Oh,
The state said I'm owed comp time and an IEP reeval. Who's responsible for doing that? Hawaii or Virginia?
so Hawaii is responsible for paying for it, but wherever you are has to implement it, right? So I had somebody that I was serving that had compensatory time in Washington and then moved to Georgia, not as far as Hawaii and Virginia, but so once the requirement is the requirement, the next campus has to implement it, but they wouldn't be on the hook for funding it.
Well, we get this question a lot. Is it okay to put a small camera or recorder in your child's pocket at school? She was hurt by a teacher last year.
So I can't tell you what to do with your child. If that is what you think as a human being that you need to do to protect your child, then I think that you should do whatever you think is right to protect your child. I would have done whatever I needed to do for all 3 of my kids, and only one of them was in special ed, without somebody approving it. It's called parenting.
And it makes us all crazy. Okay, sorry. Just me? Okay, never mind. Failing to provide FAPE, what do you suggest?
Well, so FAPE is like how many colors of blue are there? How long is the string? So a failure to provide FAPE could come in 100 ways at a school district, right? So I'm going to provide that information to the district, to the sheriff, right, to the principal, and ask if there's a way that the principal thinks that there's a way that we can rectify this at the campus level. If they say yes, then let's rectify it. If they say you get what you get and you can't throw a fit, I'm like, actually, I can throw a fit. And then I would file a state complaint or a federal complaint depending on the specificity of the allegation.
All right. In which of your trainings would you recommend for brand new teachers?
The academy. Because the academy is weekly. We train weekly. It's such a great cross-contaminated. Or cross battery. It's a great cross section of people, from principals to teachers to parents to private providers to surrogate parents, and we all resource each other. And you need that weekly, like, here's what happened this week. Here's what I did. I pivoted here. So that gives you sort of that weekly coaching. We certainly have standalone digital products that may give you something that you can purchase, and then you have that for something with specificity.
Yes. And I love that in there. You can really hear parents' pain points. So as a teacher, you can really hear that, from their perspective and learn. So
Yeah.
That's what I learned a lot when I first joined the academy, because I was a teacher. All right. Quick question. I'm a resource and inclusion para. Are we allowed to see the students' IEPs? I've gotten mixed answers.
Well, you would have to see the student's IEP. Otherwise, you couldn't implement it.
Oh, real. 100%.
100%.
100%. 100%. Any tips on how we can get cameras in SPED classrooms and only voice record in SPED bathrooms?
So I wouldn't imagine there's ever going to be recordings in bathrooms. SPED, cameras in SPED rooms are a legislative decision at your state level.
That is correct. That just passed in Louisiana.
That's good.
Oh, but you know, school districts have already figured out a way around it. So now if it's a combo classroom, then they can't have a camera in it. So they just got to put one resource kid in the self-contained classroom, and then they don't have to put a camera in it.
Yeah, it's only for self-contained classrooms.
Yeah. School refuses to say one-to-one in IEP. Instead, they have added enough quote-unquote minutes to cover the day. Why?
I don't know why, but they can call it purple, lilac, dark pink. It just has to be very clear what the expectation is from the school to the student. So I just got an IEP from a new client, and it says the student has behavioral support all day long as needed. What? Well, all day long and as needed are two different things. Is he just going to raise his hand and go, listen, in about 30 minutes, I'm going to need some behavioral support? What does that mean? You have to have a measurement in the IEP minutes.
Do you know anything about CHADD, double D, CHADD?
A little bit, but not that I would just start to answer questions here.
All right. People are worried. Are there a lot of people in the academy, or is it small enough to be a part of it? Will they get to talk to you? Will they get to chat? Will they get their questions answered?
All the questions are answered whether you like them or not. Yeah. So probably have about, 25 to 50 people log on live every Tuesday night. The bulk of our academy members watch it after the recording. A lot of them do that because they are educators. They are staff members at school, and they don't want people to know that they are getting this training, or for whatever reason. I certainly respect that. But yeah, I've never said, oh, no more questions. I mean, I think some people wish I would say that, but I don't. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Here it is. I say that. I'm like, it's 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
We got to go to bed.
It's midnight. It's midnight.
We got to go. I had a superintendent tell me the special education IEP needed to be signed off by the school board. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of shenanigans. I mean, if your school board signs off on IEP meetings, that's nowhere in state law or federal code. So I think that somebody's pulling your leg.
Hi, education specialist teacher in California. I follow you because you're so resourceful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you differentiate the continuum of SPED education locations?
Yeah, so there's about 3 locations. Obviously, there's more. But we have general ed. Right? We have general ed with no support. We have general ed with accommodations. We have general ed with para support. We have general ed with a co-teacher. We have general ed with modified. We then have, under 300.115, we have resource rooms. And those are students who are not at grade level. They need a slower pace, not the depth and breadth of the production, meaning that what they're tested on. And then we have self-contained settings that could be anything from behavioral needs to disciplinary needs to life skills, kiddos with cognitive deficits, autism units. ECSC is a self-contained unit.
All right. Can you tell us again what we're learning about in the academy starting tonight?
Hairspray. We're learning about
It's
hairspray.
always important. People ask about that.
Very.
Hairspray, lipstick. Where'd you get your jacket? Where's that T-shirt from? Where'd you get those glasses?
All the things, yeah. So tonight we're starting our 7-week series on the prior written notice. It's so important. It is one of the most important legal documents that's rarely filled out, and it's rarely filled out even close to meeting the federal obligation under IDEA. So the prior written notice, before a school proposes or refuses an action around a number of things, has to be documented, and there's 7 requirements under federal law, and so we're going to teach you guys that.
Perfect. Can I get a remedy for a child that didn't get speech that graduated from high school?
Well, I mean, so were they eligible for speech and they were denied their minutes, or they never found them eligible? If it's been within 2 years, and it's in most states, you can file a state complaint. Due process. If it's been within a year, you can file a state complaint. If it's been within 6 months, you can file a federal complaint. It would depend on, did the child have an eligibility and you were denied minutes, or you were denied the category, and so minutes were never delivered.
Okay, do you have an example of how to fill out a prior written notice?
I do have an example, and we will be training on that in the academy.
Yep, so come on over. Use that coupon code. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. Ready? Everybody, look at it. And I'm going to pin it, so it'll be there for 60 seconds. Everybody take a screenshot. Karen, smile for the screenshot.
Okay, there we go.
Is it appropriate? I'm going to make that like just the
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it appropriate for students with a 504 to spend all day in a self-contained classroom?
Well, they would never be in a self-contained classroom. They don't receive special ed services.
Correct. It's a like if you group all the kids who need minutes in the same grade in one classroom, that is not inclusion. Correct?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you might have a little tiny district and that's only 2 kids. It just depends. Can it be done? I guess. It depends on what the ratio is. If it's, yeah, probably not, but yeah.
Yeah, not 27 sped 1 gen ed. Probably not it.
Right, those are not good numbers.
Right. What type of evaluation do I ask for if my child struggles with all areas of reading?
So you would want a full cognitive evaluation to include all 7 Gs. We just put a video up of this, I think today, on YouTube. And so you want to ask for all 7 Gs, those are the brain skills. And then that will determine if there's an SLD in any of those 4 areas: dyslexia, basic reading, reading fluency, or reading comprehension.
Okay, Head Start education specialist is asking, how does she help her parents who aren't getting proper feedback from the LEAs?
So, that's all predicated on data. So you have to ask for the data up front. You have to say that every grading period, I want to receive my child's raw data collection sheets that you used to track their goals, because the data is the feedback. And so you have to know what to ask when you go in the meetings, which is why it's so paramount that people join the academy or, watch our content, because most parents just, they're denied their rights because they don't know them and they don't know how to, execute them.
All right, this one said, can you just explain what's in the academy again? It's my first time.
Yeah, so we have over 300 hours of past training. So every week we record them and we save them. They go up into a dashboard. But we train weekly on some part of the federal law, whether it's we just did a series on OSEP letters. Right now we're doing a prior written notice. We just finished, I don't know how many weeks of related and instructional services under IDEA. And we put them in series. So you can go, I need that. I don't need that. Because schools do not train teachers on special education law, no matter what somebody types in the chat. They're not trained on special education law. You'd be hard pressed to go into a school and find a copy of this. This is the federal code. This is volume 2 of 4 of the federal code. This is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And just to think that because you're a teacher or you have your teaching degree, your special education certification, or your master's or your doctorate, that federal law is often not accurate. So school districts are required to implement IDEA with fidelity. And so, the biggest gap that we see is that districts have not invested in their staff to properly train them on their duties, obligations, and responsibilities under IDEA.
Okay, and people are asking how do they join again. Do you want me to take this one or you got it?
Yeah, you can take it.
All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to www.specialeducationacademy.com. At the top of the screen, you're going to see a bunch of different options, but what you're looking for is the training tab. So click that. You're going to scroll down, and it's going to be a gray and white and blue picture. It will say The Academy. You're going to click on that. You're going to put in all your information. You're going to set up your email and password that you want your account to be. And right after you enter your password, underneath there'll be a blue button that says coupon code. You're going to tap on that. A box will open up, and in all caps, you're going to type in TikTok Live. All caps. TikTok Live. When you do that, you're going to get 15 days access to the Academy for free. And then it'll automatically roll over into our paid membership, which is $47 a month. You can cancel at any time right there in your My Course. If you have any questions, you can email advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. If you need a visual on how to join the academy, there is a pinned video on the Special Education Boss TikTok page. So you just go on there and it'll be a step-by-step video for you to follow exactly how to join so you can be here with us in about 40 minutes in the academy. All right. That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
All right. How do we get support for a teen with autism diagnosis who has an average IQ but social emotional difficulties impact the learning and attendance?
So you would need an IEP. You would need an IEP to address the characteristics of his autism. There are 16 characteristics of autism. Which of those does he have? Does he need pragmatic language? Does he need social skills? Does he need a social skills group? Does he need instruction? Does he need support during the instructional day? And so an IEP doesn't have to be solely around academic needs. It can be around any needs. Functional, emotional, communicative, social, physical, visual, hearing, eating, ambulating, all of those things.
All right. How do I collect data as a new ECGC resource teacher?
You would collect data on the students' IEPs that you are instructing them on. So if you're a resource teacher for reading, you would see which of his reading goals he had. You would collect weekly data on that. And then if they've asked you to, if there's any behavioral goals in your room.
Yeah, and you can also email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. We have 3 different like data collection sheets you can look at if you don't have one. So we have that option for you as well. My school does not offer inclusion only resource. Is that up to each school or are we out of protocol?
Or you're breaking the law. Or as Christina would say, you have just been a witness to a crime. Yeah. So the federal law doesn't change. It's not going to change. So that's 300.115, supplementary aids and services, resources under there. So you should just go into the school and just go, everybody down. It's a crime scene. Just take some yellow tape and wrap it around the desk.
Yes, there's going to be a little chalk outlaw.
Yeah, everybody, nobody move. Yeah.
Okay, so my child currently gets services. I'm sorry, Jude says hello.
Hi.
My child currently gets services for not being on grade level. We've now noticed that he is regulating his emotions. Can I get him retested? And if so, what do I ask for?
Yeah, so the testing needs to be, in all 8 areas. So we have a series that is in the academy, but it's we're now putting it up on YouTube. So all 8 areas you're going to want to test in: speech and language, medical, physical, sociological, a full cognitive evaluation, a full psychological evaluation, adaptive behavior, formal achievement to include reading, writing, and math, OE, oral expression, listening comprehension, and then all related instructional services under IDEA. You want to test in all areas because testing does one of 2 things. It identifies or eliminates so that we know exactly what's going on and how to properly serve him.
Okay, my child is OHI for ADHD, and her principal called me about 3 times about her behavior, and they're refusing a one-to-one aid. What can they do?
So, it's the job of the school to teach her strategies to self-manage her disability. If what they're doing now is not working, then you have to provide a higher level of support. If that includes a conversation about a one-on-one, then you have to have that conversation.
And she did follow up and say, if I'm part of the IEP team, why does the district have the last say?
You know what, love? We would like to know that answer too. We would like to know that because sometimes it doesn't feel like the parents have any procedural rights, but little by little, hopefully we're changing that in the special ed world.
Okay, perfect. A few more here. If my child is 2 grade levels behind with supports and pull out, can they remain in gen ed?
If they're making gains, you can certainly have a child in gen ed really receiving grade level instruction, but their production is modified. At some point, it's a diminishing return, right? I just did a conversation earlier. One of our partners has a kiddo who's in 7th grade and he reads on a kindergarten level. Well, that's a diminishing return. So we don't have, somebody who's in junior high reading picture books in a 7th grade class.
Can you place your child into a 12 to 1-to-1 ratio based on low reading level alone?
I mean, I don't know what a 12 to 1-to-1 ratio is. I would assume that's some sort of program or high impact setting. So based on reading, I would say no, but I would need to know more about the totality of that.
All right, a few more. I was told to get my son out of a self-contained classroom, I would have to render all IEP services. Is that true?
Liar. They are liars. Is there a nice way to say that? Is it like, I feel like, Danette, you would know like a nicer doctoral way to say liar. Yeah, that's not true. If you need an IEP, you need an IEP. Just because you've stopped a program or a service doesn't mean you don't need an IEP in other settings.
Okay, all right. Should a process, wait, hold on. What process? Any process. Should a sped process take more than 90 days?
So you're looking at two different kinds of days, right? So sometimes you're talking about calendar days. Sometimes you're talking about school days. So in Texas, an evaluation is 45 school days. That's 9 weeks. And then you have another 30 calendar days to come back to the table. So it could be close to half of the year. So it's often that it does take more than 90 days. And certainly if you're getting an IEE, that could take 6 months.
Correct. IEEs, they could take a while.
Yeah.
Is it appropriate for a school to use inaccurate data when determining eligibility for a 504?
Wow, I feel like you're looking through my files. No. They're actually supposed to look at valid data so they can make a valid decision. Otherwise, we're an inaccurate committee.
Okay, so now somebody said they signed up for the academy.
Okay.
Now they need me to explain to them how to get to the link for tonight. One, you should receive it in an email 15 minutes before. So even though you signed up, you'll do that. And then two, when you go to specialeducationacademy.com, there's a members only tab, which you all should be jealous if you're not a part of it. But you'll click on the members only, log in, and then under my course, you'll have the academy. Click on that at the top of it. There's a yellow button that says Zoom link. You'll click that, and that's how you'll get in the call tonight. If you have any trouble getting in, just email advocate@specialeducationacademy.com, and I will help you get in tonight.
Yes. So we'll take 2 more questions.
All right, perfect. You ready?
I'm ready.
Janet is so appreciative of your advice and knowledge.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Could she post that every day on every post? I'm just kidding.
Janet, you're on.
Janet, there's a post that we want you to go to last week when I said I wasn't a teacher. If you could just go and give it to them, that'd be great.
Yeah, just get on there because
They did not think I was cute and clever.
But did you see that one person? That one person was funny in their response. They were like, "Yeah, because lawyers were police before they were lawyers."
Exactly. I feel like you should be a police officer before you're a kindergarten teacher. So that's like saying you should have to have a foster child. It's like saying you should have a foster child before you have a child. I mean, like, what? I work for private parents. You work for a government bureaucracy. 2 different things.
Janet said she's on it.
Thank you, Janet.
Yeah. Okay. So, last one for the night. How do I get my child who is nonverbal and in the 2nd grade an AAC device in school?
Yeah, so you're going to want to go to the IEP committee and say, I'd like to get an AT evaluation, assistive technology, in communication. I look forward to signing notice and consent. And then you want to make sure that when they do that they agree to work with the speech pathologist, because obviously, and hopefully, the speech pathologist has knowledge about your child's disability. Oh, now I've got to verify. I've got to move this puzzle piece over the mountain. Now they're going to make me do it again.
Okay.
Okay.
That was the last one for the night.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for being patient. Last week, I live in Houston. We had a little power outage, which means I did not have access to making my hair warm and round and poofy for 3 days. I know. But I made it through. I'm fine now. Thanks for all your thoughts and prayers. And we're going to reschedule Myron. As soon as we get the new date, that'll be in August. And remember, if you have any questions, just email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. If you need anything, let us know. Remember, we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training.